All right, so I'm not going to have y'all fill in notes. These are essentially the same slides as last year. This is going to serve more as a refresher and a reminder of the clay procedures and how it works. I'm also recording this, that way I can kind of save my voice, and that way you have more time to do your planning portion of your project. And there's going to be things I'm going to talk about after these slides. That way we're all on the same page with how I'm grading and the new technique that you're going to be learning. But for this portion, it's just going to be kind of a quick run through of information that you already have. If you did not have me last year, you'll still be fine. As long as you pay attention to the video, you'll be fine. You'll be set. If you have any questions, though, you're welcome to ask. So the first thing you need to know is that kneading or pushing air bubbles out of the clay is to prevent damage while in the kiln, and that's called wedging. So you can call it kneading, you can call it wedging. But what you do is when I give you a fresh piece of clay, you kind of roll it up into a big old ball, you slam it onto your table, and you take the palms of your hand and you kind of push into it. And you can kind of see these pictures are really great demonstrations of how you want to press down into the clay. If you don't knead or wedge the clay, there is a high possibility that there could be an air bubble, and that air bubble will 100% explode in the kiln. And it wouldn't just be your project that it affects, it would affect everybody else's that you're around when I place your project on the shelf. So you don't need to wedge it for a long period of time, but you want to make sure that you wedge it for about 2 minutes, a minute or so, to make sure to get all the air bubbles out. So again, you will knead or wedge the clay when it's a fresh piece of clay. So your clay should be not any thicker than your thumb and no thinner than your pinky. So you can look at your own hands right now. If there's a piece of clay that's smaller than your pinky, there's a chance it's going to fall off and break. And if it's thicker than your thumb, then I might not even put it in the kiln because I don't want to risk it exploding, or it might not even be quite dry yet. It won't dry at the same pace as everything else in your project, and it causes a lot of problems. Clay is very tricky. There's a lot of things that you need to know about it, but as long as you pay attention to what you're doing, you should be fine. So again, make sure you're always checking the thinness and thickness of your clay. Now, if you had something last year fall off, this might have been a reason why. So to attach two pieces of clay together, you need to make sure that you're really scoring and slipping those pieces accurately. So if you're not pressing down hard enough when you're scoring, then it might fall off or break or, whatever in the kiln or afterwards. All you have to do to score is take any type of carving tool, press it into the clay, and you're drawing essentially lines. Think of it like a hashtag. The more lines, the better. If you don't draw enough lines, then it's going to be harder to stick it together. And if you're not pressing hard enough into the clay with the carving tool, like for instance, if you're just lightly drawing lines on your clay, that is not doing anything. Okay, so that's the first part. The second part is to add slip. So slip is just old clay that's been watered down. It acts as a solution. So when you put those two elements together, it creates a suction cup-like effect. So you can't just draw lines and stick them together. You can't just put, slip in between two pieces and stick it together. You have to score and slip. And so this little chart down here is really great because it shows you the 4 basic steps. Score it first, add the slip, stick it to whatever you need it to stick to, and then smooth it out. And the key here is that you need to do it to both pieces. A lot of kids only do it to one, and then that's why it falls off. So you have to score and slip both, or it will fall apart. So storing it is very important. It's an important part of clay in general. So for those that were able to donate white paper towels, I appreciate you, and I'm still taking donations, but these paper towels are the ones that can actually absorb. So we will be using these to clean our tables. We will be using these to clean our chairs and anything in our area. So if you're still able to bring some, I would really appreciate that. But otherwise, that's what we will be using. And as far as the super lovely, crazy, absorbent, sarcasm, brown paper towels that we have here at Size, they are just going to be what keeps our clay alive. So we're going to take our clay at the end of the class, we're going to wrap it with the brown paper towels, and we're going to wet it with the spray bottles. So you want to make sure that you're using the paper towels for the correct thing. So brown paper towels, you wrap your project, you make sure it's wet and damp so the clay doesn't dry out. The white paper towels should only be used to clean your area. Now, last year it was a quiz grade for cleanup for clay. This year it's a grade, but it's only another grade, but you should still clean your area and show respect to my classroom. It's going to get really dusty. It's going to, be a very kind of messy project no matter how much you clean. But the more that you're able to help clean your area and keep everything as clean as possible, then it's a better environment to be in. We're doing the same thing as well, where I had all of you put your backpacks at the very front of the classroom. This prevents you guys from tripping over anybody's work and breaking it. And we're not doing any warm-ups during clay, so you don't need a pencil, you don't need a backpack. And if you really, have to have your music playing while you work, that's fine, but just know that your hands are going to be messy and dirty. I have aprons, but if you want to bring a change of clothes, especially if this is being played from an 8th period, I know a lot of you come from athletics and you just wear your athletic clothing. I would probably recommend you change back into your clothes because you might risk getting those dirty or damaged. And I know that's the school's and not yours. So just be mindful of the stuff you're wearing. And again, making sure that you're cleaning up properly. But I will also remind you on the first day, hey guys, your backpacks go at the front of the class. All right. So make sure you're cleaning up with the proper paper towels. And then this picture down here is how we set it up last year. I'm going to assign everybody a parking spot. It's going to be a square with your name on it. That is where your project will live. So the earlier you get to class, the further out your project will be. So that's how I did it last year too. If I saw you would get to class early, it would be further closer to an edge. If I knew you get to class on the later side, it's going to be further back into the shelf. All right. So just be mindful that when you come to class, you want to make sure you grab your stuff and get started. That way people behind you in the shelves can get to their project without knocking yours over. All right. So y'all will be getting your parking spots assigned pretty soon. So once you have pretty much finished your project, you've turned it in, we have to let it dry out. So if you're not super familiar with clay, it has to dry out before it goes into the kiln to get cooked and to be able to be painted on. So that's why we're not going to go from finishing our clay to painting our clay. It's a process. So when we're done with our clay, we're going to go back to our Prisma. We're going to let it, dry out. Then I had to put it in the kiln. That's why we're going to be in the computer lab. Then when we come back, we will paint. All right. So this is an important process because if you are absent at any point throughout the project and it's a Monday to Friday situation, it's going to affect a lot of things because I can't just put your project in the kiln at a completely different time or by itself. The kiln can get up to about 2,000 degrees, and we actually have to call people to let them know, hey, we are running the kiln here at Tice Junior High. So drying it out is a very important process that I can't just speed up. So you need to make sure that you are, coming to school, try to stay healthy, but just know that this is part of the process that it has to dry out before we can continue to work on it. And this is what a kiln looks like. That's what the inside looks like. So I will be stacking all your projects and whatnot. There's different shelves. And again, it's the thing that where I took all y'all in the back and I took your portraits for the self-portrait project. That big old machine, that is a kiln. So last year we worked on pinch pot techniques, but these are the 3 types of clay techniques: coil, pinch, and slab. Notice I have a really big old arrow where it's on slab. That is what you're going to focus on in art too. So we are going to be talking about that process a little bit more tomorrow. I'm going to physically demonstrate how it works. It's actually really easy. Coil is the hardest technique, then pinch pot, then slab is the easiest. And you're going to probably agree when you see how that all comes together. But just know that that is the technique we are working on this year. Now, I am not going to play this video for y'all. It would be a video inception. What I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of finish talking right now, and then we're going to play the video in the other slide, and then we're going to talk about your project so you have enough time to plan, thumbnail sketch, ask me questions, whatever it may be. Okay? So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to end this video, and that way we can kind of get started for the rest of the class.